Did you see me on The View Tuesday afternoon? Did you see when they said, we don't believe there's a Trump mandate? I said, oh, really? Did you see the former press secretary for the White House come on? I think Stephen A. is wrong. I don't believe what he said is correct. Donald Trump has the lowest approval ratings in the first month or so, or the 2 months of a presidency in American history. Oh, really?
So Stephen A. Smith, who most people know for his blunt, no-filter sports takes, recently turned that same energy toward politics. This time, he took aim at how some Democratic leaders communicate, and while his words were sharp, his point was pretty clear. He argued that all the staged outrage and scripted messaging doesn't actually bring people in. It pushes regular voters away. What stood out wasn't just the criticism itself, but how he framed it. Rather than making it personal, he described it as a failure in authenticity and emotional awareness. In his view, the problem isn't what's being said, but how it's being said. He pointed to figures like Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, saying their constant reliance on prepared talking points about immigration, the economy, and everyday concerns often feels disconnected from real life. Even though he didn't hold back on the language, his core argument was simple. Repeating the same messages without any real connection or depth makes political communication predictable and easy to ignore. When people feel talked at instead of listened to, they tune out. According to Stephen A., voters don't want performances or recycled rhetoric. They want honest conversations and practical solutions to real problems. He urged political leaders to move away from fear-driven messaging and toward genuine dialogue. Conversations that acknowledge complexity, show empathy, and actually meet people where they are. His delivery mixed his usual fire with some surprisingly constructive advice, calling on politicians to communicate more clearly, listen more carefully, and reconnect with the people they represent. Whether you find his comments controversial or refreshing, it's hard to ignore the value of a high-profile voice pushing for more honest, human-centered political communication. And before we go any further, don't forget to support the channel, like, subscribe, and let's take a look.
And then you got folks like Candace Owens, who's a Trump supporter, along with various others with their microphones, their cameras, and their audience. If you think the liberals are overcoming that, you go ahead and watch Schumer and those 21 other senators talk their drivel. J.D. Vance or Marco Rubio or somebody will be the next president in 2028. You'll have nobody but yourselves to blame. As if for this edition of the Stephen A. Smith Show. I ain't got time to talk about this anymore.
And here's the real kicker. According to Stephen A. Smith, the way Democrats are messaging right now is actually backfiring. Instead of weakening Donald Trump, it's helping him by repeating the same communication mistakes that helped him rise in the first place. He doesn't frame this as partisan trash talk, but as a genuine messaging failure with real electoral consequences. Stephen A. points out that Trump's original appeal came from his ability to speak in simple, emotionally charged language that cut through all the policy-heavy jargon and connected with people on a personal level. Meanwhile, Democrats, in his view, often go in the opposite direction, leaning on scripted talking points and alarmist language that feels disconnected from everyday concerns. Ironically, that only strengthens Trump's outsider image, because voters tend to respond more to perceived honesty and conviction than to polished, carefully crafted rhetoric. He also argues that when Democrats rely too heavily on institutional language and rehearsed rebuttals, they can come off as defensive or detached. That plays right into Trump's hands. Trump's style, direct, confrontational, and confident, creates a strong emotional bond with his supporters. Whether people agree with him or not, many see his willingness to challenge elites, call out institutions, and even own his missteps as real, especially when compared to what they view as evasive political messaging. Stephen A. goes a step further by highlighting the power of shared resentment. Voters who feel burned by scandals, unclear policymaking, or perceived hypocrisy often connect with Trump's open contempt for political elites, corporate insiders, and certain media figures. By clearly naming those targets, Trump turns general frustration into focused loyalty, something that's incredibly hard to counter with nuance alone. To break that emotional grip and rebuild trust, Stephen A. urges Democrats to rethink their approach. He calls for clearer problem and solution messaging, genuine empathy, and less performative outrage. That means more direct engagement with voters, simpler explanations of policy, and actually acknowledging people's concerns instead of brushing them off. It's criticism, sure, but it's also practical advice. Take a look.
Democrats today have gone out of their way to post messages on social media about the current Trump administration and what's happening to American lives. The problem is they're all literally saying the same damn thing. Don't believe me? Check it out.
I win, I will immediately bring prices down starting on day one.
That ain't true. That's what you just heard. Since day one of Donald Trump's presidency, prices are not down, they're up. Inflation is getting worse. Not better. The prices of grocery, gas,
Yes, you heard that right. Stephen A. Smith is pushing back hard against anyone who downplays Donald Trump's continued popularity. He says brushing it off ignores what's happening right in front of us and creates a dangerous sense of complacency. From packed rallies and steady pockets in the polls to massive online engagement and visible enthusiasm from voters, Stephen A. argues this is still a very real, active movement, not something quietly fading away. He places much of the blame on the Democratic establishment, accusing it of operating inside an echo chamber fueled by partisan narratives and friendly commentators instead of honest reality checks. According to Stephen A., many voters care far more about authenticity, competence, and real-life results than they do about performative outrage. When attacks on Trump focus mainly on demonization and character criticism, without offering strong alternative policies or clear outcomes, it only reinforces his outsider image and can even energize his base, turning opposition into a fundraising and mobilization tool. He makes the point that when a party seems obsessed with fighting one individual rather than presenting a clear, compelling vision for the future, it loses its ability to persuade on practical grounds. And that's where things get even more interesting. Stephen A. highlights how Trump's coalition has expanded in unexpected ways, drawing attention from Silicon Valley entrepreneurs, independent thinkers, and influential digital personalities with massive followings outside traditional media. In his view, support, or even sympathetic coverage from podcasters and online platforms now carries political weight that legacy news outlets simply don't. That shift is changing how information spreads and how loyalty is built. Instead of dismissing this as a fringe trend, Stephen A. argues that political parties need to study it, adapt their messaging, meet voters where they already consume content, and offer concrete solutions that speak to real concerns across different demographics. If they fail to do that, he warns, they risk losing control of the narrative and the momentum to an opponent who has already shown he knows how to turn hostility and outsider appeal into organized, energized support. Take a look.
And do you know what his followers say? Yeah, that's how we want you talking to those politicians who've been stealing our money all of these years. It's not what he says, it's how he says it. He does it with vitriol and venom to show a disrespect to politicians who the public have no respect for because they feel they've been hoodwinked by those same politicians. He's using it to separate himself from the cesspool that is Capitol Hill. And how does Capitol Hill respond? By showing them they're still Capitol Hill.
Stephen A.'s warning is uncomfortable, but it's hard to ignore, especially because it's aimed squarely at Democrats, not Republicans. He argues that the real danger isn't just another Donald Trump comeback. It's the very real possibility that someone like J.D. Vance, or almost any disciplined Republican nominee, could win simply because Democrats aren't adjusting. According to Stephen A., voter frustration isn't some abstract theory anymore. It's visible, measurable, and growing, especially among people who used to reliably vote blue. He says party leaders keep falling back on recycled slogans and talking to themselves inside political echo chambers instead of seriously confronting why so many Americans feel ignored, talked down to, or shut out of the conversation. His point is blunt but grounded. Elections aren't decided only by who the other side runs. They're decided by whether a party is willing to recognize its own weaknesses early enough to fix them. Pretending those blind spots don't exist doesn't make the problem disappear. It just hands momentum to the opposition. Stephen A. believes Democrats are still avoiding that reality, and in his view, the consequences are already starting to show. And there you have it. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to support the channel.